Najeeb Sulaiman. And today, if you are joining us for the first time or you are joining us from outside of the community, this is data engineering community, and it's a community of vibrant, supportive, and collaborative individuals. So it's a platform put together to support us in our journey, regardless of where we are, aspiring data engineers, beginner data engineers, or even we are experienced. And this is the Demystifying Data Engineering webinar series. So it's a series we put together to continue to enlighten ourselves, continue to share knowledge, and enrich our mindsets. And today we'll also be having a very interesting topic for discussion. Just to mention, this is the third series for this year. And to do justice to that, we have Michael George. A lot of people knows him in the community. He's one of our active members, even though he likes to make a lot of fun and jokes. He's a comedian and also a data engineer at the same time, so which is good. So we'll be talking about a very important topic today, which is machine web scraping. And you believe with me that as a data engineer or as a data person, you always have to deal with data in different formats and different forms. And sometimes there'll be special requirements for you to be able to deal with data that is not available in a database, for example, or maybe there is an API available. I just need to do that web scraping to get the data for the web. So to do justice to that, Marco will be walking us through how to efficiently get data from the web, the techniques, the secrets, how not to get banned, and also most importantly, the legal and complications around it as well. Michael, if you are there, I will just hand over the mic to you. Again, thank you for joining everyone. Thank you, Michael, for willing to share knowledge with us. We always want to learn from everybody, and I believe we'll be able to do justice to this topic today. Michael, if you can hear me, thank you once again, and I will hand over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Nice. So how is everybody doing today? I hope everybody's fine and ready. So let me just start sharing before my laptop goes off because I'm in Nigeria. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Nice, nice. So we're going to learn. Thank you everyone. So we're going to learn just most of what you're going to learn is based on my experience, based on what I have done, based on what I have fallen for and gotten up. You make mistakes, you learn, and you continue. That is how it is in learning, actually. So occasionally I'm going to ask if you guys can hear me because my service provider is always doing somehow. So demystifying web scraping, the tools, the techniques, and the best practices, also not to get banned. So basically, what is web scraping? First of all, some people think that web scraping is when you're using Python and coding and all that, but web scraping is not always that. It is more basic than that. Just copy and pasting is web scraping. Imagine you go to Jumia now and you see and you search for something like belts, and then you see all the belts with all the prices and all that, and you copy the name, copy the price, copy the person selling it, and put it in an Excel sheet. That's web scraping, manual web scraping. And no normal data engineer or software engineer does that. It's a shame in your name and your title. So let me explain how web scraping works on a basic level. You know how you on your phone, and then you go to like Chrome or Edge or Opera Mini, and you put in a link, let me say Facebook or FZ Movies or whichever one you guys use. What you do, your browser makes a request because that website is hosted on a server. Your browser makes a request to that server. If that server sees that, okay, the request is good, it's going to send back HTML and CSS and maybe JavaScript files. Your browser makes it look fine and nice and all that, but everything in the back is just HTML and CSS. Now, when you use Python to send a request, you send requests, yes, but what you're getting back is only HTML and CSS code, sometimes JavaScript code. There is no browser to make it look nice, to make it look, the word nice. Let me show you something. Okay, so now let us go to this one is going to get me. Okay, look at this site now. I made the request to the site fzmovies.net. Now, if I make a request to this site with Python request, with the Python request library, this is what is going to be returned to me, just the HTML code. Now, from this HTML code, we can clean it and get what we need from it. So that's the difference between making a request with a browser, making a request with your Python request library. Okay, so this is just a basic visualization of how it works. What you need, the contents you need, the valuable data you need is inside a website's HTML code. And you build the web scraper and you get the data you need with Python, Beautiful Soup, and request. Of course, it's not just limited to those, but we will also get to that. And this is just an example of a browser's request and a Python HTTP request. As you can see, in the browser request, user agent is the browser name. It will get text, HTML, images, all that. Cookies, check. This is everything that, this is how a browser works when it is making a request to get to a server to get content. But with Python, what we just need is the HTML and CSS. We don't need the images, we just need the HTML that has the code, sorry, that has the data. Because most of the time, that is where the data we need is. And I say most of the time because once I was trying to get Airbnb, I was trying to get latitude and longitude from Airbnb website, and it was in the JavaScript part of the code, not in the HTML. Okay, now when it comes to choosing tools, there are different reasons to choosing a tool. You could consider your technical expertise, because if you use a coding tool, you will need to be technically, more inclined than most. You should have good coding experience and enough experience in web scraping to use code, so you avoid getting banned. Because that's one of the most crucial things when you're web scraping, avoiding getting banned. It's very easy to get banned as a newbie. I have been banned from so many sites and have not even gone back to check if I am still accepted to those sites. It's not something I'm proud of, but during my days as a newbie, I was really just jumping from site to site. So also depends on how complex the project is. And by complexity also covers the website structure. Now we just saw what the HTML of FZ movies looks like. The HTML of FZ movies is quite different from the HTML of, let me say, Facebook. Very, very different. And Twitter. There are pages itself that look so much alike, but if they are built by two different developers, the HTML is most likely going to be different. So depending on how complex or how deeply nested the HTML code is going to determine which kind of tools you use and how much scraping you will do, because there's some scraping that will go to, let me say, 1,000 pages. And there are tools for that. If you need the data like immediately, you will not be considering Selenium, because Selenium takes time. But Selenium has its own advantages. We'll still get to that. So this is for people that are not much more coding inclined. There are web scraping tools that you can use, but you might have to pay for them. I did not list all of them, but there are a lot of web scraping tools out there that don't require you to know how to code. You just pay, maybe give your site, put some more parameters, and you're good to go. Like PassHub, imports.io. There are even Chrome extensions that help with that. Now, when it comes to web scraping with actual coding tools. These are the top, at least from my experience and from what I've seen from people I've talked to. These are the top 3 when it comes to the libraries we use for web scraping. Beautiful Soup and Request. Now, the thing about Beautiful Soup and Request, it depends. These tools, they have their disadvantages and advantages, but we'll not go too deep into all that. I wanted to take time to really enjoy this class, but until I see or until I get power, we'll just keep flowing like this. So Beautiful Soup and Request, they are better or used for static pages. We'll still get into static pages, but look at how it works. So you make a request with the request library. You make a request to a link. Let's just use link or URL. Make a request to a URL. You are making a request to a server. If the server says, okay, you get HTML back. Now, when you get the HTML back, request has done its job. That's where Beautiful Soup comes in. Beautiful Soup is used to parse the data, P-A-R-O-S-E, parse or clean or get what you actually want from the HTML code. You get. Some people think that Beautiful Soup is what is used for web scraping. No, Beautiful Soup is what you use to clean the data. Okay, you are not, and this is something that a lot of newbies don't understand. You are not exactly, you're not on the website getting the data. All you're doing is you get the HTML to your local machine or to your working environment, and then you start cleaning to get the data you need. I've had a conversation with somebody and he thought that your code goes to the website and starts picking one by one every single thing you need. No, make a request, you get the HTML with all the div and the p and all other HTML tags, and then you clean it and then you get what you need. That one is for Beautiful Soup and a request, because Beautiful Soup cannot work on its own. It must work with request. And then you have Scrapy. Scrapy, from my experience, I don't like how it is good. It's fast. It works on so many sites, but I don't like how it has so many Python files. Like, I'm just trying to scrape a website. I'm not trying to build an entire software for it. I believe it has like 3 or 4, if not 5 different Python files, and you're only using one. So I don't see the point. Now, Selenium is different. Selenium is used for dynamic sites. Okay, the difference between static sites and dynamic pages, static pages, dynamic pages. Let me give an example now. Let's say you go to a restaurant and this restaurant gives you a paper menu. Okay, we're talking about static sites now. Gives you a paper menu. You only see what you want there, and if you want to eat maybe chicken, you just tell the waiter, you just point it, that's what I want to eat. Then you go to another site, much more expensive, much more elegant, much more, whatever the word rich people use for spending money unnecessarily. You go to that restaurant and then they give you a tablet. Now you click on chicken, and then a drop down comes out to show you different types of chicken. You click on wine, a drop down comes out to show you different kinds of wine that are there. You get. So dynamic pages, they render JavaScript. The beginner, that might not make sense. That's why I use the restaurant analogy. The more you click, they are single pages. The more you click, the more data you get. It's best to see what I am talking about. Okay, so let me see world football. This is world football. Okay, this is world football. I'm going to ask a question. Now, let us go to Premier League. And this is Premier League players page. I like to load. The more I go down, the more it loads. If I was still up there, it will still be on the same page. My network is not strong as it's supposed to be. Scroll. So either way, the more I scroll down, the more it's supposed to load if I have good network. Now, this is a static page. Everything you need is just on one page. If you want to go to another page, you click and it takes to another page. But this is a dynamic page. The more you move around on the page, the more content shows. If you're using requests and beautiful soup, it will not really work well for dynamic pages, because what request does, it just goes to the site. The first HTML it sees, it gets it back. That might take like 1 second. Selenium goes to the site and it waits for the site to load finish before it starts, getting the HTML and CSS and all that. So just to confirm again, can you guys still hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Megan.
Thank you. I just don't want to be talking and going, and then along the way, I've been talking for 1 hour and nobody's there. So, yes, Selenium. So now I just explained what dynamic pages and static pages are. Ethical considerations of web scraping. Whenever you want to scrape a website, even if able Najeeb NJ, I keep missing that B or D at the end of his name. I think it's Najeeb. If you want to scrape, first of all, check if there's an API, because most times there's an API for a site. An API has most of the data you need, and it's better still, it has what the website allows you to have, not just what you need, because you might need some other things and it might not give you that. So instead of building or stressing yourself to build an entire web scraping script, it's best to just check if there's an API. There's an API, simple request to the API, you get the data you need. Simple. Don't scrape personal data. That is very, very important. Let's say there's a website, a hospital website, and this hospital website has, or somehow you got into the part of the hospital website that has people's names, their illnesses, and some other things. You can scrape the illnesses. You can scrape how many times those illnesses come out on that page, but there's no point in scraping a person's name. That's private, personal data. So, in fact, most of the time you already know what to scrape and what not to scrape. It's just a matter of conscience, even if most of us don't have conscience, we are chasing the money. But still, knowing what to scrape. Or you go to a site, and this site has people's social security number, their addresses, and all that. And it also has part of the data you need. You don't need to get their name, their addresses, or any personal information. Just get what you need to make your analysis and leave. Because there's no point in getting somebody's name. How does somebody's name give you insights? You understand? Nice. Ask for permission. There are sometimes you might have to ask for permission before you scrape a web site. There are some countries that their laws on web scraping are very, very strict. Unlike Nigeria, we don't really have any laws on that. I don't even think there's any, I will not say much. Also, respect copyright. If you scrape something from somebody's website, it is, in some countries, it's against the law to use what you scraped to make money out of it. You understand? If that data is not publicly available, or you had to log in to get that data, you're not allowed to use it to get money, to commercialize it, get money. So understand, identify yourself. That is really optional. You can add user agents. Also be mindful of the website. This one is very, very important. This one should have been number 2. Don't overload a website server. A website is on a server, hosted on a server. And Just for an example, there's a particular amount of requests a website can allow at a particular time. Let's say they can only allow 1,000 requests per second. Okay, so 1,000 people can make requests to that server, and the server will not have any issues. So now you build the web scraping bots, and this web scraping bots is like making 500, maybe 700. It is very possible. You can spread your web scraping scripts among different machines and start making requests to that server. If you do something like that, you are really putting the website in danger, not just the business, because you are taking a lot of the request allocations, but it can be seen as I think it's disruption of service attack, DDoS attack. I believe that's the name. So please don't overload a website server just because you want to scrape. Don't be aggressive when you're scraping. Develop a policy for collecting data. This is more personal. Scrape at a reasonable rate. Don't scrape. This is also tied to don't overload the server. Don't scrape without conscience. Don't scrape like the person that has the site has so much money to take care of it in case you crash the site. Audit regularly. Yeah. Now, examples of things that might get you in jail. Accessing personal information. I've already talked about this one. Social security number, financial data that is linked to somebody. You are not allowed to, even if you have this kind of data and you want to use it, or having this kind of data safe is already a crime. It's personal data. I believe there's a law against it's not personal space, but there's a law on personal information or having access to somebody's personal information. Don't know how they exactly put that law, but there is. So scraping sensitive information, private or confidential information can get you in jail, especially if it's a country's personal information. Normally, yes, now safe, as we have made so much strides in our entire human race and technology, you can barely have access to these sites, but you can still have access to these sites. You know what I mean? If you do and you get this data, you should not even have this data. Let's look at this. If you get a country's personal data, which is very hard to get, but if you do get the country's personal data and maybe they catch you, they will be like, you want to use this data to give to our enemies or something like that. So laws can be flexible, yes, but just be mindful. Any websites that has CAPTCHA or login pages, you should not be scraping that website. Even if I do that, I'm not lying, I do that. But you should not be scraping that website. I'm very different. I've been through the system. I've not gone to jail, yes, but you shouldn't be scraping that website. Let me give an example. You know LinkedIn. If you want to scrape LinkedIn, you need to log in to LinkedIn first of all. But LinkedIn has a lot of personal data, like people's name, business name, the company they're working for, their email addresses, and all that. That's why there's a login page for that. And sometimes before you even log in, there is a CAPTCHA. So any website that you have to log in or there's a CAPTCHA, mostly those websites have personal information. That's why those login pages are there. So bypassing this and getting the information might be seen as illegal. Also, scraping for a company, so the company is going to use it against another company, is illegal. So this story I heard about a woman that she not scraped data, but she just got information, I believe, from Coca-Cola and wanted to sell it to Pepsi. But she was Pepsi told Coca-Cola that one of your workers is trying to sabotage your business, blah blah blah, and she got apprehended. Now, if you look back, I don't know if you guys are different. I know that Najeeb doesn't really watch TV like that. But back when Coca-Cola and Pepsi had this rivalry against themselves, in their advertisement, they're always making fun of each other. Those days with NTA, RSTV, those were one of the best times of television. So harvesting user content in violation of, okay, yeah. There's no point in getting somebody's picture, because how does that help you? I have, or somebody told me about how he was taxed to scrape OnlyFans. Now, and he was also taxed to scrape the pictures. And I was wondering why. What is the if you're going to scrape the username, because the username is not always the person's name. If you're going to scrape the username and check how many people are on this account and check how many male or female are there and check how much this person is pricing and all that, that one is understandable. But then why are you getting pictures? Like, what is the point of the pictures? You get violation. So yes, distributed denial of service. That was what I told you about when I was saying you should not be aggressively overloading a website server. Very, very, very bad. So I don't need to go deeper into that. So if you scrape sensitive data, jail. If you bypass login pages, kind of jail, because I do that. If you scrape for competitive espionage, jail. If you are getting somebody's picture or user-generated content, videos and all that, jail. If you are trying to overload the personal website server, jail. Somehow, if they catch you. Yes, now imagine you go to jail and you'll be thinking that you see Michael Scofield, but then you see the other guy. If you watch Boondocks, you understand. So the web best practices for scraping a website. Respect the website robots.txt. I did not prepare this one. Can you guys still hear me? Just confirm.
Yes.
Thank you. So a website robot.txt. Let me see if I can get Wikipedia. Robots.txt. Is it? Yeah, I did. Okay, so a robot.txt is a text file that can be accessed like this. You just go to the home page, then do /robots.txt. Robot.txt tells you where you are allowed to scrape or the parts of the site you are allowed to scrape. But I'll tell you this, a robot.txt doesn't necessarily demand you to follow this. It just tells you, like, it's a suggestion. It's like they're begging you, please consider our website when you're trying to scrape. So it's a suggestion, not a law that you must follow. So robot.txt is a text file on the website, usually on the home page, instructs where it's not just about you, it also instructs, like you know how Google has links to a website page that has exactly what you're looking for. Now, most of those search engines, they're instructed to follow the website robot.txt. Okay, because there are some websites that you are supposed to log in before you can have access to. And those websites don't usually show in a Google search dropdown. Second best practice, you should avoid overloading a web server with excessive requests. We've talked about this one already. Check if there's an API. We have talked about this one already. Don't go and start creating a web scraping script just because you can without checking if there's an API for it. It's going to give you a lot of stress, especially if you're a newbie. It's easier, if there's an API for it, it's easier to just get the API. Let me see if there's one I can show you guys. ESPN. That is ESPN. Let me see. ESPN API. Should take me to, okay. Now ESPN, but let me just confirm. It's not there. Unless if they have closed it, because ESPN is one of the only sites I've seen that has an API, but it doesn't have a documentation. So documentation, it doesn't have a way for you to know, okay, it has been closed. Well, that's new. So if it was not closed, this is what it would have looked like. When you make a request on API, you get data in JSON format. Now we already know if you are into Python, JSON format is very similar, almost identical to dictionaries in Python, key value. So this is what it will have looked like. Any single data you get from an API is most likely going to be in JSON. Wow. Okay, so let us go back. I wonder if there's a match currently playing. Also, scrape ethically. Don't overload the website server. Scrape only what you need. Scrape what is right. Don't collect personal information or sensitive information. Avoid copyright infringement. Do not sell data that is not yours. Site owner have the right to take legal action if you don't adhere to the rules. That is all normal. But yeah, how to avoid getting blocked when scraping. Now, I pride myself in the fact that I've gotten blocked on a lot of sites. Yes. So if you don't want to get blocked, you should consider this. Write your script in an IPYNB file. I believe you guys know what an IPYNB file is. It's like a Jupyter notebook. Jupyter notebook has different cells. I believe nobody here is complete newbie. Jupyter Notebook, at least you must have used Jupyter Notebook. So as a Jupyter Notebook have different cells. You do something in cell 1, you can access it in cell 2. Okay. So see it like this. I make a request to a website and I get the soup content. Sorry, I get the HTML and CSS and JavaScript here. Now, from here, since the HTML and CSS is already registered here, all I have to do is access it from here. But if everything is inside of one Python file, inside of one Python file like this, just one Python file, anytime I want to test the code, I'll run the code again and it's going to make a request to the server. So let's say I test the code maybe 3 times in 10 seconds, 3 times in 10 seconds, because you change one thing, you test it, change one thing, test it. If I keep doing that, I would definitely get blocked because they'll see it as, okay, why is this IP address making so much requests all the time? First of all, you will just be like on a watch list. After that, you'll be banned, your IP address will be banned. So that's why you should consider, not just consider, when you're building your web scraping script, use an IPYNB file. Also use a cloud-based IDE, because a cloud-based IDE, like this one I'm using now, what I'm using currently is Gitpod. I'm using Gitpod. And I also like using, what's the other one, Seth? What's the other one? The one owned by Google Colab. I also like using Google Colab. So if I make a mistake and I get banned, my IP address is still safe. Use a VPN. A VPN automatically gives you a different IP address. Like it's an IP address on your own IP address, and it also changes your location as per your country location. And something I've noticed there, if you're in Nigeria, there are some sites you don't have access to until you use a VPN. So many sites, because your job will come, you'll be like, can I scrape this site? But then I don't have access to the site because it's showing me like it's not reachable. But then when I use a VPN and I use the person's country's VPN, it works marvelously. There are some sites where what you see in your country is different from what you see if you're using a different country's VPN. Like the contents in your own country is different from the contents they are giving another country. You get so many times. Rotate user agents. Making a request multiple times to a site with the same user agent. The user agent is like a browser mask. Let's just call it a browser mask. You make a request to a site, your browser, most likely, if you make a request with Python, you don't have a user agent. User agent is like your browser name. Okay. Now, with a user agent, it's like an additional authentication to making a request. There are so many sites that won't give you access to their site content if you don't have a user agent. Also, write your script to mimic a human being. And by that, like this. Which site will I go to now? Let's say you go to GitHub now, and as you've written your code, immediately you go to GitHub, or let's say you wrote a Selenium code. Selenium has the ability to click and navigate a website. So let's say you write a Selenium code now, and in the Selenium code, immediately the website loads, it goes to, let me say, another this thing, and immediately this one loads, it just goes to data immediately. It doesn't waste time. A human being doesn't do that. Okay, a human being will take their time, move their cursor until they find what they're looking for. If there is no cursor movement, most times if there's no cursor movement on the site, they will know, and they will know this is a bot. This is a web scraping script that is moving around like this, and you might get banned. So what we do to mimic human interaction with the site is we use time.sleep. Okay, so time.sleep is used to slow your code down by a number of seconds or maybe a minute, but you don't use a minute, you use seconds, between 5 to 10 seconds, depending on the site. So you go to, so you go to this site and you wait 5 seconds, and then you now go to another part of the site. Once that one loads, you wait for another, like 3 seconds, and then go to where you want. So websites will see that this person is not just jumping from here to here immediately, because no human being is that fast. So write your scripts to mimic a human being. Okay, so now we are going to, yes, if you want to learn web scraping, I have a 5-week class that I have not done for a while, but if there are good numbers, I would venture into it again. So I will drop the link to a Google Sheets, form. So fill it if you want to learn web scraping. Okay, now so before we go into our demo, let us just conclude now. So few challenges for people that are new to web scraping. Most of the time there are anti-scraping measures in place for our scraping bots like Capta and dynamic content. So if you don't know how to use or work with dynamic content, you will have issues. Website change their structure a lot of times, and I have had to update my web scraping script a lot of times. There was a particular time A website was changing it almost every day. So I wrote a web scraping script, and that was my ETL. This was my E in the ETL. I extracted, I transformed, and I loaded to database. So it was working fine for a month. Then one day it gave an error. I got the error on my mail. I went to fix it. Then the next day, error again. Then I went, another tag was changed. To fix it again. Wednesday, the same thing. So I just stopped on Wednesday and waited for like 1 week before I went back to update it. So dealing with large amounts of data is also problematic for newbies. Experience matters in web scraping. So do you know what's worse than going to jail? It's going to jail and your roommate is PDD. Of course, everybody knows it's PDD. And do you know what is worse than having a jailmate as PDD? There's no baby oil in jail. So let's see what we can do, what we can do. I'm really going to try to be fast here so that we do some practical before my laptop goes off. But majority of what we're supposed to cover on the demystifying web scraping, we have already done that. Nice. So let us just get one page. Let us scrape data from one. So what I want to do now, once it loads because of service, so what I want to do now is to get the top 10 current movies on the top 10 current movies on IMDb in US. If it's in loads today, safe. But let us do our imports. I'm really not used to Meet Google Teams. Okay, so now what I want to get is every single thing here. This top 10. That's what I want to scrape and get. If at any point it seems my laptop is about to go off, I'll just pour the code there and you guys will see it. So Mickey 17, actually a good movie, not bad. But it's somehow to me. I wish they put budget alongside this gross, so I will know if the movie is actually making money. Let us import first of all. Beautiful Soup first of all. BS4. Dr. Beautiful Soup, we also need fake user agent. Fake user agent gives us different user agents. We talked about user agents, like it gives us browser, like a browser header. So from fake user agents, I'm also going to get fake user agent and pandas because we use pandas to clean data. So let me just run that real quick. Module not found fake user agents. Why? Okay, so why that installs? Okay, we are good now. So now, URL. First of all, you need the link you want to work with. So we just copy that. It should be in a string. And then after that, I'm going to instantiate the user agent. This is how I get user agent. Okay, so now user agent equal to, like, we're getting this, we're giving this to UA, and then we're doing UA.random, which gives us random user agents. Then we're putting user agents inside of the headers. So let me show you what this user agent looks like. So this is the user agent, Mozilla 5.0, Linux, Android, blah, blah, blah. Now, as you can see, it's still Mozilla, but it changes. This changes. You see how it changes? Nice. So now that we have that, let us make a request to the URL. So this is where request comes in. Oh, we not even import request. Request library is not just for web scraping. You also use request library for making requests to like a website. Sorry, like an API. Like curl in curl, like curl in Linux. So request.get and we are going to be getting URL. It's going to be going to that site URL, and then we're going to need the header. So headers equal to headers, which is this header. So let's check if we are going to be getting what we are looking for. Yes, we have 200. Now, the thing about this, you should, as a web scraper, you should know the different, what am I looking for? What I'm looking for, error messages. If you get 200, it means it was accepted. You have access to it. If you get 404, it means what you're looking for is not there. If you get 403, it means they see your request, they understand your request, but they are refusing to give you access to what you're looking for. Understand this, right? You're not like, so once you know the error, you know how to follow up. Okay. So now that we have the page, we're going to get the soup contents. This is where beautiful soup comes in. Since we made the request already and we have access, let us use beautiful soup to get. Now this soup can be anything, just so. Beautiful soup page.content. 20%. So beautiful page.content, and you need HTML parser. This is just standard code. So let me see if our soup is available. Yes, our soup is available. So this is this. Now let us confirm that this is what is actually here. You go to view page source. So yes, open graph protocol, facebook.com and all that. So open graph protocol, facebook.com and all that. So now that we have our soup, we can do the scraping. Sorry, we can do the cleaning to get what we need. So now that we have our soup, we don't need to be running this script again. We can access the soup from here. Okay, now this is how it is going to work. There is a container that has everything inside here. And we're going to get this container, and then we're going to have a for loop that goes through everything here, and then goes to everything here. Let me show you what I mean. If you want to get what you're looking for, do right click and inspect, and it should, but it is not giving me what I want. Okay, it is. So right click and inspect, and this is it. But we need a container. Need something that covers everything here. Okay, this covers, this doesn't cover, but this covers. So we'll just pick one of this one. So because of some unforeseen challenges, I am not going to go in depth on all that. One moment. Now, much as I would love to explain every single thing I did here, there is not enough time for me. So now we have this movie box. This movie box is what we are looking for. Let me show you. Remember this tag, IP metadata list summary item C. That is div class, then this. This is it. It covers everything here. The next one covers, the next one covers, just like that. So now we have something that covers everything. Then we're going to have a for loop that goes through 1, 2, 3, 4. And while it's going through everything, it's getting every other thing here. So we have div. This one is what we use to.
Sorry, when you copy
Hello?
the structure, the HTML structure, what did you use? Did you use expert or you use something? I didn't get that.
So in Beautiful Soup, we don't use, we have find and find all. We have select and select one. If you want to use find in Beautiful Soup now, Beautiful Soup gets, if you use find gets you the first. Okay. I'm really trying to rush this thing because I don't have the power for it as per power outage. So this is for find all. Find all gets you every single iteration of this tag it sees. Let us see what came out. So this is it. And there are 10 of these. That's for find all. So if I do find, just find gets me only one. And that one is the first one it sees. As you can see. So that's why I use find all. So with that find all, it gets me all 10 of them. After it gets me all 10 of them, I use a for loop to go through every single one of them. A moment. There we are. So I'm just going to try to explain the code. Okay, so now first of all, we needed the title and then the numbers and then the rate votes. The tag that has the title is this H3 IPC title text. This is the title. So I'd click and inspect H3 IPC title text. That is what we need. So we are correct in that one. And then the next one is going to be numbers. And as per numbers, I had to get everything inside there once. So what did I even use for this? UL data. Okay, so now you don't always use the tag. Sometimes you might have to use this data test ID. Now, this whole webinar was just supposed to show you the things you should avoid and what you should not do. I feel like if I'm going more into this, I might be confusing you guys, but let's still move. Data test ID, UL. Where is UL? Okay, this covers it. So where does this begin? Okay, now look at it now. UL. We did not use class or div. We used this data test ID. And it had title metadata box of its data container, which is this title meta, we got this. What we are doing is for every single entry we have gotten from here, remember when you saw 10, it goes into for every single one of them. It goes into every single one of them, gets you the tag and get you the text content, and then appends it to this one for the title. Then for the numbers, it does the same thing. You get the tag. So if we find it, if it is not known, so if it is there, you get the tag and append it to this list. The same thing for this one. This one is for ratings. This does not cover everything. So this covers everything. So rating group IMDb rating. Data text ID, rating group IMDb rating. You see? So what it does is for every single one of those 10, it goes in, gets the title, gets the numbers, and then gets the ratings. Okay, and then we create a data frame from it. This is the data frame. And before going to the deep cleaning, let us see what is inside of this data frame. So the data frame is gotten from this lists up here. Title, numbers, and read votes. So we made a data frame from the lists, and that is how we did it. So now this is what it looks like, but it's not clean because this one has weekend gross, total gross, and weeks released. This one also has the rating over 10 and the people that have voted for it. So in this first line of code, what I did was I separated the weekend gross from the total gross and the weeks release. Okay, and I did the same thing for the ratings and the vote count, which is these two, and then I deleted this and this. So when I expanded, yes, this one, once I expanded this numbers column into the weekend gross, total gross, and weeks released, then I dropped the column because I'm not using it again. Same thing for this vote rate. Once I expanded it to rating and vote count, then I dropped it. So let us see. So this is our final end result. Apologies, I could not go too deep into explaining every single concept, but I will answer every single question you guys have until my laptop goes off. I'm there for you. So please ask your questions if you have any.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Thank you for
Najeeb.
the great session.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
personally, I beg, I personally like the way you emphasize on the ethics and
Go to
legal
jail.
implications of, yeah, and also threaten us, about jail. So thank you so much for the effort put into this. Yeah, so it's time for question and answering. And if there's any contribution as well, maybe you have something you want to add, something is not clear to you. So this is the right time to ask your questions, and also contribute to the discussion. So if you won't have anything, you can raise your hand and call upon you, or you can just drop it on the chat and I'll read it out. Ask your questions now. Yes, Jacob, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, the presenter. This is really fascinating. But I am not used. Let me say I'm not conversant with Beautiful Soup. Normally I see it, but I don't really use it. But with this, I think is quite flexible. Maybe for a data that is not too structured. I don't know that
Yes.
I'm correct. Yes, but can you combine Beautiful Soup, Selenium, and Scrappy together to achieve a purpose?
You can combine Selenium and Beautiful Soup, but not Scrappy.
Okay.
And by
Like
that, I mean,
okay.
Selenium, you know how some pages have to load completely? That's what Selenium is for. Selenium waits for the page to load completely. So once that page loads completely, you can use Selenium to get the HTML and CSS that has the data you need and bring it to Beautiful Soup to clean it for you. That's how we combine both of them.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe in case whereby you have a pre-stored template, maybe I have an MTM data which another person is using, and also maybe Aziz is using this one and I'm using this template. But then I don't want to always wait for, maybe I am going there and Aziz too is going there to export the same or get it downloaded for the same time. Then I now decide to create my template. So most time if I go there to like download or maybe another I created my own template before, then another person now came to also create his own template. Then the HTML will now shift. So I'll have to like then if I go there to go download this, I will not get it because the head or any or the div is now shifted. So in this case, how will I always like make it to like even though it shifts, I should be able to get it.
Okay, so
I
you
don't
mean
know
like
if
when the
you
developers
understand.
keep changing the front end?
Yeah.
So you can use a lot of if-else statements to check if this one is there or if this one is not there. Because if you understand front end well enough, you would know the structure to a good extent to know that they don't necessarily change so much. A div is for this, a P is for this, BRO is for this. So if you're looking for text content, you know it's always in the P. If you're looking for containers, you also know it's in the div. The issue is going to come from when they change the things and things like class name or ID. If they keep changing things that are unique, unique enough, like the class name. I'm sure you guys can still see my screen. So if they keep changing things like this, because if a front-end developer wants to mess with a web scraper, they would change this box. They will remove this box, and then next later they will change this box to like boxer, and then later they will not change this to something else. So this will be difficult to get. But if it is this UL, they cannot always necessarily change UL
Change the URL,
because
yeah.
UL is for a particular thing.
Address.
I'm sure you get what I mean. So the issue is going to come from the name of the tag, not the actual tag itself. So more questions.
Jacob, is that fine by you? So you can move on.
Yeah. I'll check it out. Maybe reason with him after the class or so, because I keep
I'll be in the
having this
group.
issue. Yeah.
Or the front end
Okay.
doesn't just like you.
Yeah, thank you. Data guy.
All right.
Data guy.
Can you hear me?
Data
Yeah.
guy.
Loud and clear.
Can you hear me? Also, Judge of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I've been seeing you in the group. Troublemaker. Continue.
So, thank you for this session. It's a good one. I think I really enjoyed myself. Brought back a lot of memories. I want to ask you a question. It's for me and probably for a lot of people. When you are trying to script data, what informs your decision as to the library you want to work with? At what point would you say, "Oh, let me use Scrappy"? At what point does Scrappy becomes overkill? At what point do you want to use Beautiful Soup? At what point do you want to bring in automation and Selenium and all of that to it? What's are those things that helps you with that decision making? Because I want to believe that probably Beautiful Soup can do almost everything, but probably gets to a point where it's not enough to actually help you.
Yes. So everything has its advantages and disadvantages. Beautiful Soup is meant for speed. Selenium is meant for getting you everything. Remember when I opened the Premier League site, even if the site did not give me everything I want, the more I scroll down, the more it's supposed to load more player names. So the more I scroll down, I should be getting up to 1,000 player names the more I scroll down. And those are the entire player names currently in the Premier League. But you saw it only opened like 25 the first time it's loaded the page. If I use Beautiful Soup and request is only going to get me the first thing it sees. In that first second, it gets access to the page. The first thing it sees with request is just going to get it. Even if it's just 10 player names, it's just going to get 10 player names. And that's what I'll have. Just 10 player names. But it's 1 second, so it's fast. Selenium waits until every single one of. So Selenium is not meant for speed, it's meant to give you everything. And it also depends on the kind of page you're working with. That Premier League page is a dynamic. The more you click, the more it loads. But Beautiful Soup works well on static pages where everything you need is on the page, one page. Immediately you just go to the page. Everything you need is on that page, like this top 10. Like this top 10 box office. Everything we need is just on this page. Okay. But if it has to load, that's where Selenium comes in. So for speed and static page, Beautiful Soup. For dynamic pages and getting every single content you need, and also navigating from page to page, because Beautiful Soup cannot navigate from page to page. Beautiful Soup cannot click on buttons, cannot scroll down, cannot do all that. But Selenium can. Do you get? Yes. That is where both of them comes in. I don't use Scrappy like that. I don't like Scrappy like that. It's too cumbersome for me. Okay.
Yeah, does that answer that question, data guy?
Data guy.
Okay, so I think data guy is muted.
Yes. I didn't know I was
Okay.
muted. Yes, that's my question.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, guy.
Ileson.
Yeah, good afternoon, or good evening rather. Thank you very
Yes,
much,
boss.
Mr. Michael. I let me say I sincerely appreciate this section. At least I now have a better understanding of this stuff. Though I've only been able to scrape just once in my entire data journey. So, but then,
Successfully?
successfully, I was able to
Thank
scrape
God.
from Reddit, what was it called? Reddit comments from.
Okay.
I think Reddit API. It took me like a lot of. So, but then I want to ask a question. Though you said that you have, is it a bootcamp now or a program for like learning the web scripting very well? But then I want to say aside that now, do you have like maybe any documentation or what's it called that gives like a step-by-step procedure based on your experience and based on your knowledge now, a step-by-step procedure on how to approach web scraping? The reason why I asked that is because I noticed you were talking about static page, dynamic page, talking about okay, this page you have to load this way, and then also with my experience when I was scraping Reddit, what's it called? Then I noticed that there are some comments. You know, under Reddit, you are going to have this upvote, downvote. There are some comments under another comment, another comment under
inside comment, inside
exactly,
comment, inside
all
comment,
those
very nested. Yes.
Exactly. So all those stuff there, it's really frustrated me, I must not lie. So I just want to know, like, do you have maybe any documentation that you are willing to share, or maybe probably maybe sell, or what's it called, that gives a step-by-step approach to web scraping? So that's my question. That's my question.
Yeah, so I don't have any this thing like that gives you everything I have in my head that I've shared today is from my small experience. And I did not learn web scraping the way normal people learn web scraping. You know how you go to a bootcamp, or my first introduction to web scraping was IBM data analysis certification in 2021. That's when I learned it, but I did not understand it one bit until something happened. So what I'm about to tell you now, please keep this to yourself. And I'm talking fast because my laptop is going to go off. So there was a particular time when one electoral
No, the laptop has gone off. The laptop has gone to jail. Unfortunately, Ilesomi, are you in the community?
Yeah. I'm in the community.
Okay. So maybe we can continue the conversation in the community. Drop your question there, and you'll be able to respond, and everybody can also contribute to it as well. Yeah.
Right.
So we also ask for resources as well. This recording is going to be available as well for going back to it. But however, if there are people that also have other interactions, we can continue conversations here for as much we don't want to stay as possible.